Hey guys, it's Ella from Ella the Aviator again, and I thought today would be a great time to talk about aptitude tests. Yay, everyone's favourite thing. So clearly you've enticed whoever it is who reads the applications, I don't know, the person on the other end of the flying school, enough with all of your credentials that you had to send in with your initial online application. So well done. And now you've got to prove that you've got all of the abilities to be able to be a pilot. So that's hand-eye coordination, reaction times, personality, it's a big one, and all of those things you now have to put to the test effectively. So I've actually done 2 aptitude tests. One I did online at home. So with that, they sent me a link. I had to pay, I think it was about £45 to do it, which I don't quite understand because it was online, but you know, that's the way it is in this industry. So paid £45, and then it was only about 45 minutes, so £1 a minute pretty much. And that one, I have to say, I think I over-prepared. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Very simple maths and physics questions, which are GCSE level, so nothing really to worry about on that front. And then after you've done that, there's a couple of multitasking questions, which I can't really remember. It's quite a while ago I did it. But again, nothing really to worry about. I practiced them before with some online software, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the thing is with online tests is you either have to have a camera watching you to obviously make sure it's you doing the test and not somebody else taking it for you, and that you're not obviously cheating. Or, like the one that I had to do, you then have to retake the test if you pass this one, you then have to retake it when you get to your assessment day. So as well as doing all of your interview and group exercises again, so you have to make sure you're on top of everything. The one where I had to go in for the full day, well, okay, so I say full day, it was a half day, 3 hours, which is still quite a long time. That one was a lot harder. Firstly, you had to do a behavioural test, which is comprised of about 100 questions that you had to do before you actually went in. It wasn't the end of the world if you didn't do it. You just have to go and do it on the day, which meant you'll probably be there for about 4 hours instead of 3. And the behavioural questions are designed in a way that you can't cheat, because they ask you so many and they're all phrased slightly differently but asking the same thing. So even if you're trying desperately to sort of think, oh, I'm just going to tweak it a little bit because I think they're looking more for this quality, as you're doing so, because I got bored and I was like, oh, I'll just answer as quickly as I can. And that's when you sort of, you just go into automatic mode of how you would answer, and that's kind of the point of it, because they want to make sure that you're answering truthfully, because everybody wants to put their best selves forwards, but it's not always possible, and they don't want to know that, because that's not you. You're not your real self when you're trying to pretend that you've got all these extra qualities that aren't really there. But they want real people, so don't worry that you don't think that you've got all the qualities they're looking for, because most of the time you do, you just don't realise it. So just try and be as honest as you can, and don't stress about it too much. I don't know anybody who didn't pass the behavioural tests, unless you're a complete psychopath or a madman who loves taking really high risks, because that's not great in a pilot, so oh, knocked my mic there, sorry. So yeah, don't worry about that, but it's really nothing to worry about, nothing to prepare for. Just sit down, do it in a quiet room, you'll be fine. So next we go on to maths and physics. So let's see if I can tell that down a bit. I found this bit probably one of the hardest parts to prepare for, just because I hadn't done it before. I was going to say how old I am. About, oh god, how long was it? 5 years, 6 years? A long time. No longer. How old am I? 7 years? Oh god. Okay, right, we'll go there. A long time. I would say that my favourite website, and I used to use it all the time, is BBC Bite Size. The GCSE pages, they are amazing. They make the lessons so easy, really straightforward. They've got every single subject you'll possibly need on there. So that's a definite number one for me. Another thing I think we should mention is most likely you will get a pack when you are invited to go and do the assessment. So they will tell you all of the subjects that you need to look at. Broadly though, they're not specific, and there's normally a lot. The list I got, I'm not joking, was about this long, just for like maths, and I was like, oh my god, it's over. Sign me off. There's no way I can get through all of that. I wanted things like the planets, which somehow I can't remember. I don't know how. I should know the planets. I do know them, you know what I mean, just not the, well, okay, no I don't. Anyway, things like that. And then there was things like nuclear fusion and fission. Honestly, none of that came up, but I can't speak for every test because every test is different. They ask different questions. So I would say try and have a broad knowledge of those sorts of subjects. If you can, try and read up a little bit on everything. The questions aren't going to be A-level at all. They won't be. Just got to use your brain a little bit to think. Same again with maths. There's a broad range of questions they could ask you, so just make sure that you've brushed up on most of them. I think if you know most, you'll be absolutely fine. I mean, they're not looking for perfect answers. They're not looking for 100%. They're just looking for evidence that you have a mathematical or physics mind. And I'll be honest, I don't as strongly as other people do. I just practiced a lot. So you can practice enough to be able to be good at it. You just have to put a lot more time in, which is annoying, I know, but if this is what you want to do, it is worth it. So I would 100% put the time in because it does show. The next thing I would say is going on to the physical psychometric tests. So when you have trusty joystick, so this actually, you do use this in your aptitude test. So I would say practice with it, buy one. They're not that expensive. That one that I just showed you is about £30, I think. Really, really useful, because if you practice with a keyboard and mouse and then you go into the exam and you've got to transfer your hand skills on your keyboard to a joystick, it's very different and you probably won't do as well as you could. That being said, I'm sure there are some people out there who are geniuses. For those of you, fine, you don't have to do that, but for people like me, I had to practice with a joystick because it just helped me so much. And to practice all of these tests, again, you are going to have to fork out a bit of cash. There's loads of really, really useful online websites and software that you can download to practice lots of different tests. Now, they're not going to be the exact tests that you take in the aptitude exam, because they can't replicate it, but they will give you the skills you need to do well. And I think that's the most important thing. It's things like improving your reaction times, improving your multitasking skills. All of those things are integral to doing well in it. Oh yes, and then you have all of the lovely cognitive reasoning questions, which I love. I find those really fun. I didn't used to. I tried to get into one of those gifted and talented schools when I was about 12, and there was like the verbal and non-verbal reasoning questions. I hated them. It was ones where there was like little squares and it was like, oh, find the pattern, and I was like, there is no pattern. Oh, I hated it. And I obviously tried it 11 years later, oh god, and I really love it now because it's logical. It just makes sense. You look at that square and look, they've got the same things, so it must be a part of a pattern. Again, you can learn this. The software that I've mentioned for all of the psychometric tests, the physical ones, that does have a bank of those sorts of questions that you can practice, and I would recommend practicing those because sometimes you'll find the pattern that isn't the right one, which I've done before. So it's nice to know, just to have an understanding of what kind of things they're looking for. And I think if you take all of those notes in, you will do well in it. And again, obviously you can't prepare exactly the questions. It's just like any exam, you don't know what's coming up. But they kind of want that. They want to make sure that they're getting your actual skills rather than somebody who's mechanically learnt how to do it. You've still got to apply those skills in a different way every time you do the test. So it is worth trying to make sure that your abilities are up there enough to be able to do well in any situation. Another thing is, if you are in the exam and something goes wrong, and you've done something wrong in the middle of the test, and you have that horrible, panicky, sinking feeling, don't give up. Do not give up midway. Keep going and try and save or rectify your error as much as you can. And I say that because pilots are meant to be cool as a cucumber under pressure, and things do go wrong. So if you can make sure that you keep a calm head, even if you've done something wrong, that might just work in your favour. So don't, because I came out going, oh my god, I did this wrong and I did this wrong and I've completely failed, and I hadn't. So you know, you can never know, and I thought I completely buggered up one of the entire sections. So, but I made sure that whilst I was doing it, I kept a very cool head and I stayed very calm throughout it. And I think that is one of the biggest things you can do in that situation, because that's effectively going to be the job at the end of the day, is staying calm in those sorts of critical situations. I know it's only an exam and it's not life or death, but it is a big deal to you because this is what you want to do. So just keep calm, don't stress about it, just do it and try and rectify it as much as you can. Another point is, if you think you're having a technical fault in the middle of your test, please tell somebody. I had that problem, and if I hadn't said anything, I would have failed. I actually would have failed, and I would have had to wait 6 months and then go and do it again. So please go and speak to somebody if you're having an issue. What else? So I think that's pretty much everything that I did on the day. A couple of things I will say. Make sure you have a good breakfast that morning. It always helps, because you're going to be in there for a while. I was in there for 3 hours in total, 3 hours being examined. That's a very long time to be concentrating for. So please, I know even if you're not a breakfast person, at least have a snack in your bag, because you are allowed to take breaks between tests. So go out the room, go and have a snack, go to the bathroom if you need to, because I made sure I had a break between every single one. I wasn't one of the last ones there because I was doing that, but I needed to sort of, because all the tests are quite different, it's nice to go and remove yourself from the room, take a breather, go back in, start again. I find that really helped me center my thinking when I was coming on to a new subject. Also, make sure you bring a bottle of water with you. I'm sure they'll probably offer you water anyway, but I quite liked having my own. I always like a huge one as well, just in case, 'cause it's always good to keep hydrated. I know I sound like a broken record, but from like every teacher ever when you're going into an exam, but it is true. Another thing is, make sure you get there really nice and early. The last thing you want to be doing is stressing that you're going to be late. That's not going to help anybody, especially you who's about to take a 3-hour exam and you're late and you're rushing. That's not a great way to turn up. So yeah, I would definitely say that's a big part of it. So another thing I've read a lot online is that they're always watching you, as in the flying school people, when you're in. So even if you're sat in the waiting room with all the other candidates, I didn't really feel like that was happening. So when I was sat down, it was a really mixed bag of people, and nobody spoke really. I think everybody was so nervous, we were just sort of all in our heads a little bit, because I had absolutely no idea what to expect. So I was sort of going through the motions of, okay, stay calm, it's gonna be fine. And then we were sort of invited to then go up to the rooms. I started chatting to one of the girls who was really nice, but I didn't feel like they were watching us. I think because they have so many people going through every day, I think it's a lot for them to be monitoring who everybody is and what they're doing. I think they just sort of want you to do the test, see how you do, and then sort of get you on to the next stage. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. If you want to talk to people, talk to people. If you don't and you need time to like zone in, that's also fine. I really wouldn't worry too much about that and what people are thinking. Another top tip, I don't know about you, but this is something I really like to do. I like to be familiar with my surroundings when I'm being examined. So I went down the day before the exam with my mum. I know, I'm such an adult. And we went and had a tour around the academy, which helped massively because it wasn't such a scary, unknown place anymore. I was very familiar with it, so we went all the way around all the classrooms, all of the common areas and stuff, and because we didn't actually go into the examination area at all, but because I'd already walked around a little bit, when I got there the next day, I felt very comfortable because I'd seen it all before. It wasn't all new and scary or exciting. It was just, okay, I've seen this already. And I also knew where the bathrooms are, which was quite nice because I could just go straight away, because I'm one of those nervous people who needs the bathroom every 2 minutes. So yeah, I would say that is definitely my biggest pieces of advice for you if you're I'm sorry, I don't know why I do this. My biggest piece of advice for you if you're going to do your aptitude test, again, really don't panic about it. It's not as scary as you think, and I know it's so easy for me to say that, but I had, you know, when your stomach flips, I had that, I'd say about 3 days before. I was really nervous, and I got in, and there was just there was a whole list of sections that you had to do, and you could do it in any order. So loads of people started doing straight into the joystick bits, and I like a good list, so I went from top to bottom in order. So I started with the maths and physics and then moved my way down. But again, it wasn't anything terrifying. It wasn't. And of course things didn't go perfectly, they never do, but some things went better than I expected, some worse, but I still passed. So all you can do is do your best. So once you have finished your aptitude test, I read somewhere that one person was invited for a tour. Definitely go if you didn't go the day before like I did, because it was a great way to sort of relax after it and sort of feel a bit more natural in the setting that you're in. None of the people I was with were invited because we all left at different times, because obviously we start at, I think it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you just do your questions until you leave. And because I had so many breaks, I was one of the last people to leave, but other people left after pretty much 2 hours, 50 minutes, 3 hours, whereas I was a bit longer because of all the breaks I had. So, you know, you can, that way nobody sort of hung around, everybody sort of went about their day. And then they say they'll normally get back to you within a week to let you know how you've done. I actually found out that day. I think they were just being very, very efficient for my group. I was quite lucky with that. But don't be discouraged if you don't hear within a couple of days. Normally it's about a week, I believe, but they will tell you that as well, how long you'll have to wait to expect. And then as soon as you've got your aptitude test results, you will then be able to book, if you're successful, you'll then be able to book on to an assessment day straight away. And I'll do another individual video for how I prepared for that section as well. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. I mean, it's generally nothing really to worry about. Just put the work in, put the hours in, and you'll be absolutely fine. Please do subscribe. I also have a blog, which I will link below or somewhere around here, if you want to give that a read as well. I've outlined pretty much everything I've said in this, so obviously a much shorter format. So if you do want to give it a listen, give it a read, please go and do that. I'm also on Instagram, Ella the Aviator, so give me a follow as well. You can see more of this beautiful face and sort of things that I'm getting up to at the moment. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's been useful. Again, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about the applications, because I know I bombarded people all the time with questions, so and I'd love to hear from you as well, so please do get in touch. Okay, thanks, bye. And can transfer this skill into this that's not the best, yeah, you know what I mean, which I did do. which I do. So show you. Ooh. God, that's attractive.